In 1927, despite a great deal of scepticism, little money and even less publicity, the legendary Joe Davis organised the first Snooker World Championship. 10 players entered, with half of their entry fee going towards the purchase of this trophy. It was Joe who won that first championship, and with it, the sum of £6, 10 shillings. 78 years on, the trophy remains the same, but the world of snooker has changed beyond recognition.
No.
$7.8 million TV viewers in the UK watched as Shaun Murphy beat Matthew Stevens to become the 2005 World Snooker Champion. His share of the £1.1 million total prize money on offer, £250,000. Even the visionary Joe Davis would have had difficulty in believing how far his beloved game had come. Joe himself had won the title every year until 1946. His brother Fred continued the Davis domination, but the championship soon faced decline. There was a split in the sport in 1952 and 2 tournaments were held. From 58 to 63 there was no championship at all. In 1964, it was revived on an irregular challenge basis, and only in 1969 did it revert to a knockout format. But it was the 1970s that were to mark the start of the modern game of snooker as we know it today. In 1976, the World Snooker Championship was completed in Wythenshawe, Manchester, with Joe Davis in attendance. Ray Reardon of Wales won his 4th consecutive title, his 5th in total, beating Northern Ireland's Alex Higgins in the final. But most importantly, this was the year that the championship found a lucrative sponsor in Embassy. The partnership was to last for 30 years and would establish the World Championship as a premier fixture on the sporting calendar.
And he's missed it. Now, what's he done?
He has conceded. What an extraordinary situation for young Higgins. Alex Hurricane Higgins has conceded not only that frame, but he has conceded the match.
When Embassy came in with a firm situation that they were going to continue, we were surprised it went as long as it did. They were well organised and they put everything into it. And they were very warm and welcome. It was wonderful.
We wanted the Embassy brand to be associated with sports which were played by individuals rather than teams. And so, for example, it was part of a programme of sponsorships which, as you may recall, included, well, angling, which was never a television sport, but was enjoyed by about 1 million participants, but perhaps more famously for World Bowls and World Darts. But World Snooker was clearly the most important, if you like, the flagship sponsorship. And in every case, we were able to become the title sponsor of a World Championship, and I think through our sponsorship, not just of the event that we tend to see on television, but at the grassroots of the game, because of the money that we were able to provide to the sporting bodies, to actually encourage the growth of the game, to encourage more participants to play, for standards to rise. And as a consequence, yes, I do think we've been a major force for good, if you like, in creating the modern game of snooker that we see today.
1977 proved to be another landmark year for the championship. The wife of the event's promoter suggested it be held at Sheffield's Crucible Theatre. Snooker and the Crucible proved to be another match made in heaven. The intimate atmosphere generated by this small theatre in the round could have been tailor-made for the game, and the championship has remained at its own theatre of dreams ever since. The honour of being crowned first Crucible champion went to England's John Spencer, who defeated Canada's Cliff Thorburn in the final.
And in fact, Cliff Thorburn has conceded. John Spencer takes the world crown for the third time.
Spencer was lucky to have been appearing at the event at all.
I was coming home from North Wales, fell asleep in the car and wrong side of the dual carriageway and got hit with a 20-ton lorry. So I was rather fortunate, you know, never got a scratch. But the queue was broken into 4 pieces.
With a fixed home, increased funds and improving standards, in 1978 the BBC was persuaded that snooker could attract massive audiences, and they decided to introduce daily coverage. Such was the response, 5 million viewers for a midnight highlights programme, that schedules were cleared for live coverage of the final, in which Ray Reardon comfortably defeated South Africa's Perry Mans, his 6th world title in 8 years.
He's now just 2 points behind. Requires both pink and black.
28.
As well as highlighting their talent on the bays, the blanket coverage was beginning to turn the players into household names and entertainers.
It made personalities, celebrities out of personalities, or whichever way. And wherever you went, you became instantly recognisable. They introduced things that happened or what went wrong, what was right. And the first time I saw it, I thought, I want to be in that. That's how I looked at it. And the following year, when they do it again, I thought, what would I have to do to get in it, you know, to make sure that I got in it? When I came here yesterday morning at 11 o'clock when Eddie thrashed me 6-1, I felt fantastic. I did, honestly, I felt super. I felt fit as a flea. And what happened? He did me 6-1. Couldn't complain against that. He played super snooker. So last night, about 8 double gin and tonics. In bed at 3 o'clock this morning. Tired today, played marvellous.
In 1979, the new mass TV audience was enthralled by the exploits of Terry Griffiths from Wales.
Terry Griffiths defeats the Australian champion to go through into the Embassy final at his first attempt.
I'm in the final now, you know.
Terry Griffiths.
The former postman and bus driver had only hoped to qualify for the Crucible stages of the event. In the final, however, he defeated Northern Ireland's Dennis Taylor 24-16, winning 12 of the last 14 frames. It was a victory that was to usher in levels of play never before seen in the game.
There's just no stopping
11.
Terry Griffiths. And so the last red disappears. A deep screw with a lot of side, but it's not quite hard enough.
And Dennis Taylor concedes.
How does it feel? Tremendous, isn't it? Tremendous. Top of the world.
If proof of the game's popularity was needed, then 1980 provided it in explosive fashion. In the final that year was Alex Higgins, the raw, unpredictable, twitching genius from Belfast, and tactically astute Cliff Thorburn, the grinder. The compelling contrast in styles was matched by an equal contrast in personalities.
I don't know how it all worked out, but we just never got along right from the very start. I'm not even going to tell you about what happened or anything like that, but it just, you know, the first day that I met him, I'm not even sure if I put it in my autobiography, but, you know, it was just a bad start on the first day. It was a grudge match. I mean, I wanted to win so bad. You know, I'm surprised that my nose didn't start bleeding a couple of times in the final. I was trying so hard.
So compelling was this match that when the BBC interrupted coverage with news reports of the Iranian embassy siege, they were flooded with complaints.
This has been truly a great final.
Back to the table. Despite trailing 5-1 and 9-5, the grinder fought back to take the title 18-16.
The world title for the first time going across the water to Canada.
I don't believe it. Honest to God. I'm speechless, but I must say that it's very difficult to play in front of Alex Higgins' home crowd. It's the same thing when Alex comes over to Canada. You're a fantastic audience, and I just hope that you stick with him because he's the biggest draw in the game of snooker today.
I'm Pete Godwin. I've been responsible for the playing arena of the Crucible Theatre for the last 26 years. Well, there's a lot of problems we have to overcome to turn the Crucible Theatre into an ideal snooker arena. To bring all the seating into so that every seat can be utilised, we have to lower the floor, which is like 3 ton of floor. That then creates another problem because you have to support the tables, because between the floor and the basement there's nothing, so we have to support the tables by acro props. So in fact the tables are really standing on stilts. There's like 8 stilts underneath the floor. And because the room is so tight, you know, normally I'd look at a major venue when I design a set to have sort of 10 feet from the set to the table. Well, the Crucible, it's 5'4", you know, a Crucible for 10. So it's very tight, so everything has to be spot on. And it works really well. You know, I still get butterflies in my stomach, you know, and this is my 26th World Championship.
(1981) will be remembered as the start of the Davis era. England's Steve Davis came to the Crucible that year as reigning UK champion. His defeat of Welshman Doug Mountjoy, 18-12 in the final, served to confirm the start of his domination of the game.
He's breathing heavily as he comes down to this final pink. And that's it. Congratulations there from his manager, Barry Hearn.
And I saw him running towards me. It did appear, as it got closer to me, that there was a juggernaut coming in my direction. I didn't know what to do, really. And I could see him. I was going to enjoy it, but I knew it was going to hurt. And I knew it was going to hit me pretty hard, and I was going to have to go backwards to sort of soak up some of the damage. I've got over it now. The bruises have actually gone down a bit.
Steve Davis, snooker champion of the world. Do you want me to say it again, or has it sunk in yet?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The World Snooker Champion, 1981, Steve Davis.
Ironically, the following year, Davis suffered his worst crucible moment, a 10-1 first-round defeat to Tony Knowles.
And a little wave of the hand indicates that the Embassy World Champion has been defeated by Tony Knowles.
Results like these were to become known as the Crucible Curse. No first-time champion has managed successfully to defend his title the following year. Instead, centre stage was taken by the enigmatic Alex Higgins. World champion in 1972, the Hurricane and his legion of fans had had a long wait for the second world title that his talent deserved. In the semi, he faced the heir apparent to his title of People's Champion, 19-year-old Jimmy White.
Oh, is that good? Do you like that?
You get the feeling, Jack, this could be the winning break.
White needed just one more frame for victory and took a 59-0 lead.
And that really is a delightful shot to get around the angles, getting on the right side of all the reds. So Alex breathes again. 59 points in front now. And still enough points on the table for Alex if he can just take his opportunity.
One.
Well, what would you do here, John?
Well, I think he's got to have a go at the blue or the green. There's plenty of points on the table for Alex.
Four.
And with that shot has brought the only red that was relatively safe over the centre pocket.
Alex just isn't getting the run. He had it in the early stages, but it's left him at the moment.
Well, he can pot this blackjack, and I think he's got to go for it. Into this right-hand corner pocket. This is the big shot of the frame. And that's a tremendous shot under pressure. A lot of courage Alex has got.
And Alex not able to afford any mistakes. If he's going to go for a colour to play for the Reds, he must get it, or else it could be the end of the match.
And then another tremendous shot.
18. Quiet, please, gentlemen.
Red into the corner pocket, right-hand bottom pocket. Oh, and that's a beautiful shot.
$26. $27.
32 behind. Red in the middle.
34.
I'm feeling nervous for him, Jack. I think if he clears this, this would be the break of the tournament.
And here we have the colours on their spots.
Yes, Jack, all easy shots these normally, but every one a pressure shot in this situation.
$14 behind.
Just has to hold it together for 5 more shots. Tremendous break, this.
47. $51.
Beautifully on the pink. And he needs the pink and the black. And he's on the black.
62.
And what a fabulous break if he knocks this black in. Oh, marvellous!
It's still considered the greatest match-saving clearance of all time. Higgins went on to win the match, and in the final, the Hurricane met his old adversary, Ray Reardon.
Well, Alex knows that the championship is within his grasp from this position. And that's perfect. That certainly must be the shot that makes the title certain.
Just 3 balls to go now for a break of 135. Ray Reardon has sat in his chair for the whole of this final frame. Fantastic. And the Embassy World Snooker Champion for 1982 is Alex Hurricane Higgins.
It was the year of the Hurricane. His victory had inspired and captured the hearts of millions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the new world champion, Alex Higgins.
And that was my inspiration then, just to pick up snooker and play snooker. That's what I wanted to do after that final. Higgins, was given the trophy with the baby crying, and his wife came out. It was just fantastic, and he was a hero anyway in Ireland. And just that's what sort of inspired me, and that's what the Crucible was all about.
Could it get any better? Frame 4 of the second round match between Thorburn and Griffiths started unremarkably enough.
Foul, Cliff Thorburn, 4.
Well, that's one way of getting them, I suppose, and staying on the black as well. My word, that's a bonus.
Yes, what a lovely fluke that was that Cliff Thorburn got, because these reds are now Spread open beautifully.
9.
Couldn't possibly wish to have the balls in a better position than this.
16. $17.
Well, Cliff has gone through a little bit too far on that shot. I think the red may go into the centre pocket.
$25. $32. $33.
Perfect angle on the black here.
Well, Cliff didn't get into that one as he wanted to hold the cue ball on the other reds, and he's just slipped out of position a little bit now. You can clip this one in and come around the back of the black, but not quite as nice as it should have been. I think he was a little bit fortunate there, after getting out of position, to have such a easy shot to just drop it onto the black again.
$48.
Gradually finding it a little more difficult. Again, he's got a red here on the left-hand corner pocket. And that's a good shot. A soft screw there
49.
Just to hold him on the black. I think he can see the black. And there's a nice picture of the Thorburn stance, very square to the table. And Terry reflecting on his misfortune there with that fluke by Cliff at the start of this break. Oh, that's a nice shot.
Well, this will be the 8th black. Cliff's main objective will be to win the frame, but he'll certainly be looking for a very big break here. He'll feel very much happier when the frame is actually safe. And to do that, he needs another 2 reds. And then he can relax and concentrate on making a very big break, because there is a marvellous opportunity here.
Yes, there's also a marvellous prize, Rex. Some £3,000 for the highest break, and that's worth a night out.
Well, Cliff will be looking for something better than just the highest break here, Jack, because he's still taken all blacks and £10,000 for a maximum break. For a new championship record of 146, £5,000.
Well, I'm going to break a rule here, Rex. Every time we talk about these wonderful breaks, they go and break down, so I'm going to let him finish this break. I'm a wee bit superstitious.
Well, this next one will be the 10th black. And the adrenaline will be really flowing with Cliff at the moment, because he knows that this is the type of opportunity that doesn't crop up very often. And still perfect position to
88.
Just get the red nearest to the black and back onto the black again. Hasn't quite stunned that as much as he wanted to. Left himself a little bit finer angle on the black than he wanted. He'll get positioned on the red without any problem, but just made the black a little bit more difficult.
And Griffith's quite aware that he's lost the frame now. I am sure that he is hoping and praying that Cliff Thorburn will do this.
97.
Well, Cliff this time needs to get round the back of those reds to leave himself a choice of either red into the corner or red into the centre. Well, now it's got to get on this a red in such a way to get back on the black. So now this is
Have a little break here.
a difficult shot.
Well, what a sensible fellow. At a stage like this with just one red left, he stops and blows his nose and says, let's have a break. And if he can take this red and the black, the colours will be on their spots. Oh, what a moment this is. It is truly electric here. If only we could tell the audience not to applaud just for the remainder of this break. Keep rolling. And they have actually stopped playing on the other table.
Well, now this is the real shot that matters, Jack, to get on the yellow. If he can do that, he could be well on. He hasn't come quite far enough. He's left himself a tough shot, but that's 15 reds and 15 blacks that he's taken now.
Well, this is carrying £10,000 for the highest break, 5,000 for a championship break, and 3,000 for the highest break. So we're talking about £18,000 on this.
Well, that was a marvellous yellow that Cliff Thorburn took then.
And Bill Werbenick, as tense as he is. And that is perfect. That is perfect. There's going to be another moment in Cliff's life when he's going to be so tense as this. Cliff. Oh, good luck, mate.
The Crucible's first 147, 15 minutes and 20 seconds of history.
Just look at the pictures.
But for Thorburn, the joy was short-lived.
My friend Terry Haddock came over from Canada. He ran the Canadian Open for 7 or 8 years. He was the one that told me that my wife had miscarried, and you know, so my wife's the kind of person, you know, that wouldn't, you know, bother me like with something even like that. I mean, you know, she's incredible. But what happened was, you know, so they wanted me to phone my wife, and of course, I, you know, like Terry said something about this, and I wasn't quite sure, so it was I phoned my wife, like, you know, to tell her what I'd just done, and you know, she started crying, and you know, and said that she was sorry that she lost the baby, and I said, well, I wanted to, you know, come home. She said, no, stay there.
Cliff did stay and made the final, but exhausted and drained, he was unable to stop Davis from claiming the second of his titles.
And Cliff Thorburn looks at the table. A very tired Canadian champion retires to his seat in the background there. It's all over. Steve Davis then continues his tapestry of titles by becoming Embassy World Snooker Champion of 1983.
Despite a spirited Jimmy White comeback in the final, it was Davis's title again the following year.
Jimmy sees the championship now drifting away from him. A great champion. He is achieving what nobody else has done before.
Davis won 18-16 to become the first champion to successfully defend his title at the Crucible.
A great performance then by Steve Davis to win the Embassy World Snooker Championship 1984.
I think I'm speechless this time. I worked something out last year. It's been such a hard battle for the 2 days. Commiserations, Jimmy. It's his first final. I just hope he doesn't get any older, that's all.
(1985), the game's greatest final? Well, could 18.5 million viewers be wrong?
As the hour reaches midnight, this final frame has now been in progress some 45 minutes.
I do remember certain things about the last frame. We were both useless.
My word, what's he done? Oh. And he's missed it.
Steve Davis, 4.
That's unbelievable.
But I remember the great Cliff Wilson, who's sadly no longer with us, a great potter from South Wales. And he said he'd never seen safety like it, where we kept flicking balls along the cushion and coming back down the table. So although we missed all sorts of chances, there was some good safety in it.
This time it's perfect.
All said and done, this safety tactics is probably one of the highest standards that I've ever seen.
And it took forever, and the excitement was past what I could handle.
Both players under a great strain.
And just the last 4 balls, I'll never forget those, because the brown was probably one of the best shots I ever potted under pressure. And I'm sure Steve and a lot of people thought I would twitch on the blue, but I knocked the blue in. And a fairly difficult pink at that stage.
The final frame, the final black.
3 boards I didn't think he'd pot, which completely crumbled me, and now it got down to the black.
I have never known an atmosphere like this.
I thought he'd get it, and it hit the jaw, and it went safe. And he left me an awful shot, length of the table, dead straight. And I just remember being so proud under pressure to play a really good safety shot back.
A good one.
Under pressure, he doubled the black from one end of the table to the other and missed the white by a fraction and left it perfectly safe. And then I had a go at a long double up into the corner pocket.
He played a long double and it went safe again, and I just thought, oh, not again. Now got to play another safety shot. And then I played a bad safety shot, a sort of cocked hat shot that went completely wrong and hit the wrong, didn't hit the top cushion, hit the side cushion, and left Dennis the long pot in the green pocket.
And I remember thinking to myself, right, this is probably the last chance you'll have to lift the Embassy World Championship. Keep your head still, you know, push the cue in and out 4 or 5 times, push it through in a straight line, and you're world champion. And it was probably the biggest twitch ever seen.
It wasn't the greatest attempt in the world because his elbow knocked out somebody in the front row.
And I remember pushing my glasses, going back in the seat and pushing my glasses up like that. And Steve then walked to the table, and I think everyone in the Crucible, everyone that was watching, 18.5 million, thought that Steve was going to pop the black.
No.
I just bottled it. You know, I just overcut it by miles. It never even wobbled in the jaws. And I remember looking up to my friends who were in the balcony and put my finger up something like that. And I just looked at them and I'd blown it. And walked back to my seat with resignation, really. And Dennis had to pot the black. I know he could have missed it, but he was never going to miss it.
Just let the butt of the cue rest on my 4 fingers, and I took ages, or it seemed like ages on the shot, and I just really let go of the cue.
He's done it. Dennis Taylor, for the first time, becomes Embassy World Snooker Champion 1985.
There really wasn't a loser that night. I know Steve was devastated afterwards, but there wasn't a loser. I think snooker was the winner, and to have been involved with it in a final like that, that's still remembered to this day, it was just fantastic.
After 17 days of play, the emotional release, doesn't matter if you've won or lost, is at the post-match party, you just let your hair down and just go for it and have a few drinks and forget about it. But obviously it was difficult to forget, but I still got drunk and had a laugh. And I was with my manager, Barry Hearn, and his wife, and the 3 of us were so drunk, and all of a sudden, Barry said to me, well, look, it doesn't, he said, I'll tell you something. And it was as if he was going to say something really serious and really sort of profound. And Susan was there as well. And we both sort of leaned in to see what he was going to say. And he headbutted Susan for fun, basically. He just went bosh like that, and she went, ow! And I just laughed my head off at that. I thought it was the funniest thing at the time because I was that drunk. And just at that point, there was a guy from the Daily Mirror came along to ask me a question. And as he walked in to the conversation, he was like, Steve, you know, how do you feel now? You've had a couple of hours to relax. And I looked at Barry and I said, shall I? And he went, yeah, go on. So I headbutted him. And obviously he wasn't party to the fun we were having because he thought he took offence and took his glasses off and was about to job me. But fortunately Barry was there to sort of calm him down a bit. It was quite a funny moment, really. We started headbutting everybody. It's funny what you do afterwards, isn't it?
People always say, what time did you get to bed? There was a party back at the hotel. It was just pandemonium, and well, everyone wanted to chat to me, and I'd had a good few drinks afterwards, and I remember sleeping for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then heading back home. And the one thing, I mean, the press were parked all up the drive where we lived. There was, I don't know how many press there. And we did have a balcony at the time across the front of the house. And Denise, my daughter, was over, but the two boys hadn't come over, and Damien and Brenton, they'd made this banner, and it was across the balcony, and all it said, and I'll never forget it because I thought it was fantastic, it just says, because we were away for 17 days, and it said, "Welcome home, Dad." It never mentioned anything about world champion, and I thought that was a nice little touch, and that's something that'll stick with me forever.
Hello, I'm Joan Rennick. I've been coming to Sheffield's Crucible Theatre as a fan of snooker since 1985. Since my husband died, I take 2 weeks off work, well, more than 2 weeks off work, so that I can come to watch the snooker. Probably my family think I'm strange, but no, a lot of friends don't. I mean, I've made a lot of friends through snooker. The highlights have been the 85 foul, and of course the 6147s I've seen. I missed the first one in 83, but I've seen every single one since. I'm very, very relieved that Sheffield have retained the World Championships, I am. I don't think it'll be the same anywhere else, same as Jimmy and various other players have said. Wimbledon's tennis, Wembley's football, Crucible snooker.
1986, and surely a fourth title this time for Davis. His opponent in the final, Bradford's Joe Johnson, without a title to his name, a 150-to-1 outsider, was better known in Yorkshire nightclubs than at the snooker table.
I thought it was a fair price, 150s, maybe even, should have even been more, maybe 250s.
Just 17 days ago, he was a rank outsider.
But Joe played fearlessly to belie the odds and take the title.
The crowd here at the Crucible are going mad for Bradford's Joe Johnson.
The most remarkable world final I've ever seen, as the capacity crowd go completely mad.
I think they might applaud you all night, but it's been quite an interesting day, hasn't it?
Certainly has. Yeah, terrific, yeah. Brilliant. I'd like to say a few words about Steve. I know that everybody will be behind me because I'm a Yorkshireman, but I mean, what a terrific player Steve is, and I don't think that the people give him the recognition that he should have. I mean, he's a terrific sportsman.
The situation was, for me, totally different to the Dennis Taylor loss. Joe outplayed me. I hadn't thrown it away, I just couldn't live with him on the table in those 2 days. So at the end of it, just shook hands and smiled and went, "Well done, Joe, what a great performance." And Joe was, you know, he's a lovely guy.
Joe Johnson, champion of the world.
The two faced each other once more in the following year's final.
Is this the frame that Steve Davis is looking for?
And vengeance was Davis's, an 1814 victor. The king was back.
Steve Davis, 78.
He breaks down at 78. But Joe Johnson, the defending champion, is the first to come out and congratulate Steve Davis, who in Diamond Jubilee year becomes Embassy World Snooker Champion for the 4th time.
The following year, Davis steamrollered the field to take his 5th title. Terry Griffiths, his final victim in an 1811 win.
He has shown what a complete master he is.
This will leave Terry needing snookers.
$64.
Already had 2 centuries this evening. and still concentrating, but it's all over for the 5th time. Steve Davis becomes Embassy World Champion.
And to complete his glorious decade, Steve equalled Ray Reardon's modern record of 6 titles with an 18-3 drubbing of John Parrott.
John, I feel, is demoralized. The biggest defeat this championship has known.
One.
Born to be champion. "25 points in front. All the words have been used up in adoration of Steve Davis.
Davis took the title with a session to spare.
John Parrott concedes. He's satisfied with 63,000. But the title of Embassy World Snooker Champion 1989 and a hat-trick goes to the fabulous Steve Davis.
But I do remember having the feeling that I wasn't playing great snooker in the build-up to the tournament and being very worried about my cue action and not happy how I was playing. So to actually turn that around and by the end of the tournament be playing possibly some of the best snooker I'd ever played at the Crucible, certainly in the final, and to be so clinical amongst the balls and pounced on every one of John's mistakes, that's how it seemed, and clearing up time after time to win frames, one of the most satisfying wins.
John Parrott, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd had a great season that year, starting to come to fruition with my snooker. I'd had some tournaments beforehand where I was in at least quarters, semis or finals of nearly everything I was playing in. And basically turned up at Sheffield that year in decent enough form, but you know, not great. But somehow managed to get to the final. I didn't play particularly well. And basically mentally rubbed out. And when I got in the final, I played Steve, who was still at the top of his game. And basically, he was flying at the moment and I was just tired. And I just got worse and worse. And I said afterwards I played like a slow puncture. And that's exactly what happened. And he just pulverised me.
Hi, I'm Dave Jenkinson. I'm a cameraman. I've been working on the World Championship snooker in Sheffield for more years, I'm going to admit. The space here, to be honest, is so tight, it's not true. It's like somebody's put a snooker table in your front room, invited about 900 people to come watch, and then they go and divide the room in half. So you get about 5 feet of space between the edge of the table and the edge of the set. Well, the camera's about 3 foot, 3'6", and it makes it very difficult. It's because it's so compact, because the audience is sat so close to you. It is just like, you know, playing with people in your own house or something like that. If you go to Wembley, you've got so much space. The audience are very distant. You go to Preston, it's the same. You know, a lot of the other venues are all the same. But this is the only one where the audience are practically sat on your lap.
A new decade and a new period of domination. The 90s were Stephen Hendry's era.
Making his TV debut, Stephen Hendry.
The talents of the wee bairn had long been talked about. That early promise was about to be fulfilled.
Settle down, please.
Hendry made the final and faced Jimmy White, conqueror of Steve Davis in the semis.
White struggling against some despair in his mind.
Very calm, very cool. Playing beautifully.
And this break is starting to look very likely to be the killing thrust.
71.
And with that break of 71, Stephen Hendry brings a great championship to an end. He has beaten Jimmy White by 18 frames to 12 to become the youngest ever champion.
He was just 21 years and 106 days old.
Everyone's ambition when you play snooker is to be Embassy World Champion, and to achieve that, to become the youngest ever, was an amazing achievement, and it made me the world's #1 ranked player at the same time. So it was like a double celebration. I achieved everything that I wanted to achieve, in that one night. So as you say, fantastic memory.
The beginning for Hendry, but 1990 marked the end for Alex Higgins. He lost in the first round, and following a series of disciplinary transgressions, Higgins was banned for a year.
Hurricane doesn't want to be part of this tribe anymore. No disregard to the northern people because they like tribe. I like it as well. I don't want to play anymore.
Despite announcing his retirement from the game, he did return, but the hurricane had effectively blown his last. Not even Hendry could overcome the crucible curse. He was defeated by Steve James in the quarters, while John Parrott made it to his second final to face Jimmy White in his third.
Hint of desperation about that one from Jimmy White. He's got an awful lot to do, whereas John Parrott has just got to be patient.
And that is the shot that's going to finish this championship.
And John Parrott's waited a long time for this. He's suffered some defeats and disappointments on the way. Finally, the whirlwind Jimmy White concedes to John Parrott, and a very deserving champion. John Parrott wins the Embassy World Championship, 18 frames to 11.
Before I go any further, I think I've sat in that chair myself after being beaten in the final, and I think Jimmy deserves an extra round of applause. I can't play any better than that. I'm looking forward to getting the video off you for that one. Because, quite honestly, the first session I wouldn't have liked to have played myself.
And at the time, you're still so high on adrenaline and still so focused on what you've been doing for 17 days that I don't think you truly appreciate what it is until you've had a little bit of time away. I didn't. I mean, at the time, it was all a bit of a blur, and it's one of those things you'd love to have done again just to truly appreciate it. But at the time, you're so fully focused and concentrating that, the next half an hour or whatever it was just, very strange.
Jimmy White may have taken Alex Higgins' title as the People's Champion, but he was also becoming the Crucible's nearly man. 3 final defeats to date, but at least in 1992 he had something to cheer about. Frame 13 of his first round match against Tony Drago.
I put the first red there, and I can see I can get 4 or 5 blacks before I get in any trouble. So at the moment I'm just concentrating on, because I lost the last 2 frames, so I'm trying to get my composure going as well. I just pop the red on the right here, with a tiny bit of left-hand side for position for the black.
9.
Can you virtually remember every shot?
As I see it, yeah. Just stun the black in here for the red, just plain ball red now.
16. 17.
Were you beginning to think by now?
No, not
something
yet.
Special?
No, not yet, because I'm not in a very good position shot here. I have to screw back off the cushion, just missing the side red. and I got perfect position. I've got to use the rest now.
24.
But the rest has never been a problem for you?
No, I'd do a couple of... You'll see later in the break, I do a good shot with the rest. It's probably one of the key shots for the break.
25.
I just stun the black in here and leave myself position on the red to get back on the black, which is about 3 inches off the cushion.
32. Are
you thinking just one shot ahead, or maybe 2 or 3?
Well, at the moment here, I've got to now pop these, pop the black and go into the split. And after this shot is when I realise I've got a good opportunity for 147.
Yeah. This is the gamble shot, is it? You had to produce something.
I had to. I could pop this and go for the red over in the middle pocket, but if I get a good split, which I did, I'm perfect on the red in the middle. And now I'm thinking of a 147.
40.
You always dream about getting a 147
41.
in the tournament, especially a ranking tournament. To do it in the World Championships like a dream come true.
Well, what's he thinking? Because he sat in the chair when James Watanabe got
He's a nice guy, Tony. He wanted me to do it because he couldn't win the frame. I'm on 80, and so I know he was willing me to do it. There's a few players who wouldn't like to see you do it, but he's one of them who did. This is probably one of the best shots I played in the black. I played to screw it in with side and hold it, and it hit the cushion and come perfect.
$88. $89.
I play a bad shot here, David. I end up snookering myself. I played on 2 reds when I should have just played on 1 red. And I go the other side of the pink. So I played on both reds. I should have played inside the pink and the 2 reds.
Yeah.
But I play a good shot here with side. Loads of check side, and I think I clipped the pink on the way back, which leaves me on the cushion. I'm now too committed for thinking of anything else. I get a little clip on the pink there, which maybe I could have done without, because it's definitely right on the wood.
Were you shaking, Brendan?
I was fully tense, but we've been working on that side of the game, so it just kept still on that shot. That was a great shot. And now once again I've got to play with. I think I just dropped this in actually and leave myself a bit of a fine cut on the black. But I know if I pop the black, I bounce. Coming round to look at the table now, I know that if I pop the black, I bounce between the blue and pink.
Right.
And if I get enough pace on it, I must leave myself an angle on the red to get on the black.
Yes, I think we're all thinking about that red.
Yeah, see, I'm still not perfect I come perfect now, but I wasn't actually in a prime position there.
Oh, you got to get down there again.
Yeah. This couldn't have finished better. This couldn't have finished better because now it's I'm under a lot of cosh. I just stun this off. As I potted this, someone shouted out, "Come on, Jimmy," and John Street said, "Shut up." Yeah, if you heard him there. Yeah. And I played a green, I get a slight wobble off the jaw. Yeah. And really I should have took a bit more time on the brown because I come too far on the blue here.
You have slowed your game down quite a bit now.
Yeah, well I have to, I'm just, because this game's so, you can make mistakes by just being that few seconds too quick. You make a mistake and all of a sudden the opportunity you've created, you give it to the other player. I just play to stun the blue in, but I go forward about 1.5 inches, and I probably played to come through about 1 inch. So now this is the shot. I'm just totally thought, well, I've just got to drop this in, and like you couldn't wish for black for 147.
I think that's one of the great picks. I mean, everybody was talking about it, saying, you know, roll up and under that pressure.
Yeah, I just
a great ball.
Thanks very much. And the black was in. Felt tremendous.
Following only the second 147 in Crucible history, Jimmy again made the final, and again he faced Stephen Hendry. Jimmy had led 14-8, but he couldn't maintain his form.
That is unforgivable, really, but he is under pressure.
Well, I'm sure every nerve in his body is completely knotted at the moment.
87.
A sad picture. Stephen Hendry, world's #1 star. Capacity crowd here at the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield for this final.
106.
As Stephen goes out in a blaze of glory, he becomes the 1992 Embassy World Champion for the second time.
The remarkable Scot won 10 frames in succession for an 18-14 victory. The Hendry White saga continues, but this year Stephen was simply too good for Jimmy.
One has to feel a little sorry for Jimmy White.
Bad luck, Jimmy.
So Stephen Hendry finishes off as he started. A really magnificent finish. We couldn't have a better champion. The 1993 Embassy World Champion, Stephen Hendry, wins 18 frames to 5.
Surely this must be Jimmy's year. He made his 5th successive final, while Hendry had slipped in his bathroom and fractured his elbow. Despite having to wear a sling off the table and suffering pain on it, Hendry still battled through to face White. The match went all the way, 17-all, but with Jimmy looking good amongst the balls...
Did he see the title there, Dennis?
Oh, dear me, that was just a little bit of tension.
As much a test of nerve now as skill.
That one only just wriggled in. Everybody's tense. Well, Ray, I'm delighted for Stephen Hendry, but I could cry for this gentleman sitting in the chair there.
Stephen Hendry has proved once again that he's the best player in the world.
A 4th title for Hendry, a 6th final defeat for White. His best chance had surely gone.
And there was a stage for, as you say, 4 or 5 years when Jimmy and I were just dominating the championship. There were some great battles, you know, obviously I won one easily. I won a session early, but the other 3 were all pretty close, especially at 18-17.
I'm Mike Gunley. I'm Tournament Director at the World Snooker Championship. I look after the rules and regs and anything relating to playing issues and player issues. You come in the morning, you'll check that the tables are set up, the scoring system's running because we're responsible for the scoring system. Then double check that the players are all checked in sort of half hour before we start play. A lot of it's down to timings and things and making sure that everybody's aware of what's happening, so communication is key. We're very lucky that the team we've got at the moment really do put it together well, and it does run itself at the Crucible once we're all here because everybody knows what they're doing. The worst aspect is when you have to discipline a player or you have to dock a frame. That's obviously for a breach of the rules or something along those lines, and it's never nice, but that's my job. I'm here to apply the rules of snooker and they've got to adhere to them. The best part is when you get to the end of an event, it's been a good event, there's been good snooker and everybody has enjoyed it.
Controversy struck the Crucible.
Well, I know that he was slightly hampered over the black, but he missed that yellow by a vast margin.
There were allegations of a betting scandal concerning Peter Francisco's first-round match with Jimmy White. With a lot of money placed on a 10-2 scoreline, the match indeed finished that way. Following a WPBSA investigation, Francisco was banned for 5 years. White emerged blameless.
12th frame, Jimmy White to break.
Jimmy went on to reach the semis, where he faced, guess who? Again, Henry wasn't in generous mood.
Well, that isn't the best of breaks from Jimmy, and I'm certain Stephen will take this on.
One.
Into the reds now.
$73.
And now even Jimmy White will be willing Stephen on to get this maximum. The frame already gone.
97.
And this is where position has to be precise. Now these next two shots are the crucial ones. I certainly get on the black here, but it's been able to get on that red down near the bulk end in such a way that he can get back here for the black. So this could be the shot of the tournament. I think he's got a little straighter on the black than he would have liked.
He's got a chance.
Well, I certainly fancy him now to get the black. But the unfortunate part is he's put the pink and blue in an awkward situation. So now it seems just the blue and pink is only problem. But I promise you, these next 6 pots, there's more pressure and it will build and build with each shot he takes. Well, that's the worst shot he's played throughout the break. Didn't really get high enough. Needed to run a little. So now blue into the yellow pocket. And if he gets this, he will be pushing the pink toward the centre pocket. Well, the blue's there.
Great chance now.
Yes, and listen for the roar if this pink and black goes in. Slow down. Well, this would be a pressure shot to win a frame, but for a 147, I promise you, the pressure has got to be the greatest ever.
Makes the third 147 maximum in Crucible history.
Henry swept through to the final, Up against him, a surprise package in Nigel Bond, who was both shaken and a little stirred by Hendry.
Does he sense the writing on the wall? .26-year-old Stephen Hendry takes the Embassy World Snooker title for the 5th time and a record 4 times consecutively. A fabulous performance.
The Scots clinched victory with his 12th century of the tournament, a record at the time. 1996 marked a remarkable 21 years of Embassy sponsorship, and the party was certainly memorable.
52 on the flames.
The youthful exuberance of Peter Ebdon took him all the way to the final. Awaiting him was Hendry. Who else?
Yes, so Peter fighting on to the end, but I think it's going to be in vain.
Oh, it's not there.
And it's all over. Peter Ebdon turns to congratulate Stephen Hendry, who in 1996 becomes the Embassy World Snooker Champion for the 6th time, equaling the record of Ray Reardon and Steve Davis. A fabulous performance.
Meanwhile, a 20-year-old Ronnie O'Sullivan was upsetting opponents by playing some shots left-handed.
10. Well, you've got to feel for his opponent. I mean, this is, what do we say, taking the mick?
And Robbie Doo did not offer his hand in congratulation after the contest.
It's probably good for the crowd, but I don't think it's good for the players, you know? I mean, when you play a professional player, you should respect the professional. Especially the way I was playing, it was even worse, you know, because I was playing bad and he was like, he was doing that.
Glad he didn't shake me hand. If he wants to be like that.
Ronnie was also found guilty of assaulting a press officer and had to pay a £30,000 fine with a 2-year suspended ban.
I would like to apologise most sincerely to Michael Ganley, my fellow professionals, and Embassy for my out-of-character behaviour. I would like to thank the disciplinary committee of the WPBSA for giving me the opportunity to continue to play the game that I love. I give them my assurance that from here on I shall use my very best endeavours to be a model professional and an ambassador for the game of the Snooker Association.
The following year, Ronnie was true to his word. 1997, frame 14 of his first round encounter with Mick Price.
One. Eight. 9.
Yes, it was just a much too thin a safety
16.
shot that Mick Price played to leave these on for Ronnie.
17. 24. 25. 32. 33.
1 That's the 5th red and the 5th black coming up. And obviously the red at the bottom of the cluster will pot.
40. 41.
Now.
48.
Important now off this red to leave a nice angle on the black.
49.
Well, I think he's overdone that slightly, has he? Or can he force the cue ball into that cluster? He can.
56.
Just wondering if he can get that one into the left centre. Looks as if he can.
57.
This is amazing.
$64. $65.
Well,
72.
One more red in the frame safe, but Ronnie's got other things
73.
on his mind, and so has everybody in the audience.
Well, listen, John, I know you've commentated on a maximum before. I have never,
80.
and I'm starting to get a bit excited here. There's a little
81.
matter of £147,000 on offer this year for a maximum break.
$89.
Yes, and I think those 2 reds below the pink, one of them will pot in the left corner. And they will now. Needs to be a bit lucky. That's okay.
96.
Great chance.
97.
4 minutes for the century. Amazing.
Right, this is the key shot. Needs a good angle on this red to get on the
112.
black. He's got it just.
113.
Oh, slow down, White. Slow down, White.
$122. $125. $129.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely perfect.
134.
I don't believe this. What a break! What a fantastic maximum break that is. Ronnie O'Sullivan's delighted, the crowd's delighted, John Virgo, and I'm delighted.
5 minutes and 20 seconds of snooker perfection. The fastest 147 in history that earned the Rocket £515.62 per second. Ronnie was beaten in the second round, but he was looking on to see if another record could fall. Hendry was in the final hoping for a 7th title. Standing in his way, Ken Doherty. With only 1 title to his name, the affable Dubliner had been criticised for not making the most of his potential. Not this year.
Stephen Hendry has won the Embassy World Championship for the last 5 years. It looks like this man could take over this year.
There's no better feeling in the world.
So Ken Doherty deserves this Embassy World Championship title.
The victory had the whole of Dublin glued to their TV sets. It was reported that not one call was put through to Dublin's main police station that night.
It means everything. I mean, there's so many great players that have been and gone and have sort of never won it. When I actually won it, my sort of thoughts went flooding back to that day when I used to watch it as a kid, you know, and wondering and hoping that was the, you know, that's why I wanted to play snooker, was to play one day, hopefully become a professional and maybe play there, you know, would have been great enough, but to actually win it was, and you know, all their memories came flooding back. But you're there, you're sort of, you're marked down in the history books and your name is on that prestigious trophy, and nobody, whatever you can do, nobody can ever take that away from you, and it's something that you will, you know, relish and treat, and I'm sure everybody will keep reminding you of what they were doing today, particularly in Ireland, and anyway, because they all remember it more than most.
Ireland was preparing for a repeat of the festivities as Ken made the final the following year.
It's been a fantastic year. It's only on loan for a couple of weeks, all right?
Facing him was Scotland's John Higgins, who needed to win the title and see Hendry suffer a first-round exit in order to be #1 in the world. Well, Hendry was beaten in round 1, ironically by old foe Jimmy White. Next step for Higgins, the small matter of winning the world final.
Sustained excellence. And now the possibility that John Higgins had clinched the title with yet another century. He's already set a new record of 13 for the championship, superseding Stephen Hendry's 12.
Take the black, John. He doesn't need it. What a performance.
John Higgins clears with a break of 118. His father embraces him. His mother has already embraced him. John Higgins, champion of the world and world #1.
You've had mum and dad, you've had the tears, you've had the applause. Can you believe it?
No, it's just can't. It's unbelievable. Now you've watched over the years. And just amazing to come here. Now Ken's already done it now. He's been a great champion, and I'm just thrilled to bits to beat a great champion like Ken.
You've broken records, more centuries. You've done all that here. You've become Embassy World Champion, #1. What are you going to do over the next few days?
Get drunk.
With the continued flowering of a new generation, Hendry was in danger of becoming yesterday's man. Earlier in the season, he'd been at rock bottom, following his 9-0 defeat by Marcus Campbell in the first round at the UK Championship. But you write Hendry off at your peril.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark J. Williams and Stephen Hendry.
Having seen off Ronnie in a classic semi-final, he met stablemate and friend Mark Williams in the final.
Pink and black to finish with a century. Not too bothered about that. He's just so pleased to have done it. Ray Reardon, 6 times world champion in the 70s. Steve Davis, 6 times in the 80s. But it's a magnificent 7 times for Stephen Hendry in the 90s. A standing ovation for that marvellous feat.
So I've never, gone around saying I'm the greatest player. I would never do that. But I once heard Tiger Woods say that if you're in the conversation where people are talking about who's the greatest player, then you've done your job. That's all you can ask for is to be in the debate. Whether someone will come along and win 7 world titles remains to be seen. But it's certainly a very proud feeling to have won more, certainly here at the Crucible, than anyone else.
My name's Grenville Charles, and I'm the photographer here at the Embassy World Snooker Championships. This is the 4th year that I've done the snooker at the Crucible. I normally arrive about 9:30, 10:15, and then basically I just stay backstage and concentrate on the players backstage, trying to catch some of the atmosphere. It does get a little bit hectic at times, and I know it does also in the boxes where the other photographers are, which I sort of steer away from really, but it does get hectic in there, I know. It's just so satisfying when you get something, and it's like a classic photograph. I mean, what I'm concentrating on really is the photography and getting a good photograph. That's my aim, basically. It is very satisfying when it's a great photograph of someone like Henry or Ronnie or one of the great players.
A new millennium, a new period of domination. With Hendry falling at the first hurdle to Crucible debutant Stuart Bingham, it was left to his good friend and the new world #1, Mark Williams, to battle past John Higgins in a tense semi and reach his 2nd successive final. And it was to be an all-Welsh affair, his final opponent, Matthew Stevens.
What a final we've had from these 2 Welsh wizards.
Matthew Stevens led 13-7. It was a commanding lead. Another couple of frames and it would have been an impregnable lead. But Mark Williams showed amazing resilience to recover, to win by 18 frames to 16.
Williams became the first left-hander to take the title and the first Welshman since Terry Griffiths in 1979. Williams fell foul of the Crucible curse while Ebden was making all the noise.
Come on! We haven't heard that for a while. We haven't heard that from Peter Ebden. That's how much it means to this man. He's back.
It was Higgins who made the final. Actually, he had an inkling that he would.
It was in a nightclub in Glasgow. One night I was in with my fiancée at the time, and she's now my wife. And I noticed this man, and he told me he was a clairvoyant sort of person, and he said he'd actually seen me playing Ronnie O'Sullivan in the final of this year's World Championship, and he said I was going to come out the winner. I hope it does come true.
Ronnie was indeed to be his final opponent. But what about the rest of the prediction?
He's got a lot of bottle, this player, I'll tell you. That was just pure tension.
Higgins wondering whether he's going to get another shot. No mistake on what was effectively match ball that time. John Higgins was in first in this frame with 45, but Ronnie O'Sullivan clears up with 80. Ronnie O'Sullivan wins the Embassy World Championship. He beats John Higgins by 18 frames to 14 after a fabulous final. And how happy Ronnie must be after all his inner turmoils, all his troubles. This has been the fulfillment of an outstanding talent.
And a lot of people kept saying to me, you know, you're the best player never to win it. You will win it one day. Do you think it's your year? And it was getting to be quite a really boring question. So let's put all that to rest. And there, you know, it's just I'd like to win a few more. I'm just out there, and I really don't care. I don't care if I win, if I lose. You know, if I win, it's nice. But if I get beat, I've got other things to do.
O'Sullivan almost overturned the curse, but lost an ill-tempered semi-final to Stephen Hendry. Remember him? Hendry in the final against a more pensive Peter Ebdon. An 8th title for the Scot, or the first for Peter? The 34th frame, Ebdon leading 17-16.
He's missed it. That could be the end. Peter Ebdon, 24 ahead, 51 remaining. 2 reds, 2 colours would be enough. And Stephen hangs his head. Oh, dear, dear, dear. How's he missed that? Can you believe the tension?
Hendry's made many century breaks to win frames. That 29 break will give him more pleasure than any other break he's ever made.
So down to a very tense and very final frame.
Where's this white going? It's gone in.
Peter Ebdon, 4.
It's in. Well, Stephen hasn't come to the table. He'll give Peter his moment of glory, and that's what it is now. The brown's in. When he misses, he'll be congratulated as the Embassy Champion of the world. What a moment in the life of Peter Ebdon. Everything he's worked for, dreamt of, will become a reality. Pot this or not. It's over! 7 times world champion Stephen Hendry claps his hand and says, well done, Peter Ebdon. You are the Embassy Champion of the world. 2002. What a performance.
Congratulations, first of all. Now, you have been known to get quite excited here down the years. Are you holding it together okay at this stage?
Just about. I'm trying very hard, but just about. To be honest, it means the world to me. It's what I've been working for and dreaming about for the last 17 years. I must be a very slow learner, but I got there in the end.
2002 Embassy World Snooker Champion, Peter Ebdon.
3 different winners since Hendry's last title. Was the era of one player's domination at an end? A second 147 at the Crucible for O'Sullivan perhaps suggested otherwise.
This is the one.
Well,
29.
he's just gone a shade too far. Perfect.
134.
It's still not straightforward. Keep coming. It's going to be a tricky black. Oh, it's going to be tricky.
£169,000 on this pot.
Wonderful, wonderful display by Ronnie O'Sullivan. He's looked out of sorts. They've all come across to congratulate him. They're two of his fans. How wonderful was that, Dennis?
That is absolutely incredible once again. I was in the box when he did it in 97 in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. That is truly incredible.
Equally incredible, he lost this first-round match to Marco Fu. So could Mark Williams start adding to his collection of titles? He had an easy ride through the tournament, easy that is compared to Ken Doherty, who'd shown remarkable resilience against John Higgins and Paul Hunter to reach the final.
Ken Doherty has produced all sorts of comebacks. This would be the biggest one of the lot.
11-5 down, Ken fought back to 11 all and 16 all.
Ken Doherty, 40.
But Mark finally broke his resistance.
Ken fears the worst.
It's been such a sporting final. One of the finest Embassy World Championships we've had for quite some time.
The pink sufficient
30.
to leave Doherty needing 2 snookers.
31.
The plant makes sure.
And Mark Williams, the most relaxed man in the Crucible Theatre, or so it seems, but inside,
73.
he will be absolutely delighted.
77.
When Williams led 10-2, it seemed as if he might even win with a session to spare. The blue finishes on the floor, but that doesn't matter. Mark Williams clinches the title, beats Ken Doherty, the Embassy World Championship, for the second time.
I'm sure you pay great tribute to fiancé Joe, but also to Terry Griffiths and what he's done to help you over the past season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Terry's helped me. I mean, loads. I mean, I can't see. Oh, there he is. There. There he is. There. Yeah. And he gets more nervous than me, believe it or not. But I mean, a lot of thanks to Terry. I mean, without him, I was struggling a bit, and I've won quite a few tournaments this year, and obviously my mate Sargi's here as well. Do my head in for 2 weeks as usual, but that, you need people like that around with you, and it could have gone either way at the end.
It was O'Sullivan, though, who was still looking the most likely successor to Davis and Hendry. His temperament appeared to be the main problem. But Ray Reardon was brought in as guide and mentor, and the old master seemed to work his magic off the table as dexterously as he'd done on it.
Will you welcome into the Embassy Arena, Ronnie O'Sullivan?
Ronnie looked unbeatable on his way to a final demolition of Graham Dott.
Six.
Quite simply,
7.
O'Sullivan has been the best player of the tournament. The smile up to his army of fans in the balcony. I'm sure the smile was probably to his mother, who's sitting up there.
to win the Embassy World Championship for the second time is something that most players have never done once.
15.
A big credit should go to Graham Dott. What a tournament he's had. He's got nothing to be ashamed of. He's played, at the moment, the best player in the world. And the handshake, I'm sure, will come from Graham Dott. What a tournament. O'Sullivan has been quite simply magnificent. He takes the Embassy World Championship by 18 frames to 8 as the Crucible audience give him a standing ovation. Well played, O'Sullivan.
I'm just going to enjoy the moment, and who knows next season, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I'm just going to enjoy it for the moment and take some time off in the summer. And if I do carry on playing, I just want to keep improving. And this is the greatest tournament any snooker player can play in, and it means so much to me. So, you know, and I just want to say for my dad, you know, this one's for him, you know, so for my man.
Well, he's amphibious, isn't he? Don't know about ambidextrous, but he's amphibious, because I'm sure if he took his shoes off, he could play with his feet. Really speaking, we're looking at somebody who's a magician in a way. And he thinks that he cannot miss anything, which gives him this magical... everybody knows how wonderful he is, and they all love him. And so whatever he's done is certainly not against the audience and the spectators, because he wouldn't dream of that. He's so wrapped up in what he's doing. And he's a magician, and he just goes into... probably goes into a spell.
Hi, I'm Roger Lee, and I'm the organiser of the Snooker Heritage Room here at the Crucible Theatre.
I've always been pushing that the game should have a permanent heritage room or museum. Every major sport has one. When John Spencer was chairman, he suggested, can you put a room together at the Crucible? I said, I'd love to. So, that was 10 years ago. We put it together, and I've been here ever since. Most of the players over the years have been in here. Stephen Hendry, I always remember he came in and he says, what's the most expensive item in here, Roger? I said, well, at this moment in time, Stephen, you probably are. The Crucible is the ultimate, really, in the presentation of snooker. You couldn't wish... every seat is perfect. You're never that far away from the table. The atmosphere you could cut with a knife. And I can't see any reason for it should ever leave here.
Because of government restrictions on tobacco advertising, 2005 marked the end of Embassy's partnership with the tournament. The parade of champions that preceded the last session of the final was fittingly moving testament to the service that their sponsorship had given to the game of snooker. Not present at the parade was Ronnie O'Sullivan, who had announced his temporary retirement from the game following a controversial quarter-final defeat at the hands of Peter Ebdon, whose modest pace of play had attracted criticism.
To be honest, I don't care. I won the match, you know. People can say what they like. I'm a different style from Ronnie O'Sullivan. Ronnie O'Sullivan is an absolute genius. How do I feel? I've just beaten the world champion and world #1. You know, I put my heart and soul into every single match I played.
I know you're very emotional at this stage. You're obviously living and breathing this. Are you okay?
Mark Williams picked up £161,000 for the Crucible's 6th maximum break.
A little bit of history.
120.
He'll be the first ever Welsh player to make a maximum at the Crucible. Come on, Mark.
$134.
Underhit it just a little bit. Get in.
140.
Unbelievable. Mark Williams.
Terry Griffiths had already left the commentary box to go and congratulate Mark. Superb.
22 years of age, from Rotherham, Sean Murphy.
And the tournament also saw the emergence of another new star from a seemingly endless production line of talent, 22-year-old Sean Murphy. Having survived 2 rounds of pre-Crucible qualifying, Murphy played with the assurance of a champion to reach the final against Matthew Stevens, and he looked at home on the biggest stage of them all.
It's there, it's there.
Sigh of relief time in the Murphy camp.
Just the red to leave Matthew needing a snooker. Incredible.
65.
And a big rising star is born here.
Sean Murphy has beaten Matthew Stevens to win the Embassy World Championship. Astonishing, astounding.
The first qualifier to win since Terry Griffiths back in 1979. And it's widely predicted that his 1816 victory will be the first of many.
People have been saying, you know, for the last 2 weeks that I've been looking quite calm and taking things in my stride. If they'd have asked me, I'd have told them that I was shaking like a leaf most of the time. You know, I've done ever so well just to deliver the cue, let alone pot a few balls, and it's my honour and privilege to be the last Embassy World Champion.
Sean Murphy, the star of the last chapter of 30 years of enthralling sporting history.
It's going to be so nostalgic for us as a family to think that our names can be added to a series of icons alongside those that we saw this evening in the arena. It's just an absolute, it's beyond our wildest dreams, in other words, yeah.
Embassy have been such tremendous sponsors for snooker over the last 30 years. And what a fitting way to have a new young player come into the Embassy World Championship, the final one, and really blow the world's best players in the game totally out the water.
I think it was an incredible final. You know, you've got the storybook job, really, haven't you? You'd think it was scripted, really. The amount that Embassy have put into this World Championship over 30 years, whatever the WPBSA do after this, I don't know how they're going to follow it. It's going to be a hell of an act to follow. I mean, not only they've been professional, they've been humorous, they've been generous, and they've turned the sport from nothing into something that's worldwide. So whoever follows that, well, good luck, fellas.
And sponsors like this don't come along very often, and we've been very, very lucky. We've probably been spoiled in a way, you know, because in our climate now we realise how hard it is to find sponsors like such as Embassy, and it's very, very hard to go on from there. But you know, they've been good to us, and snooker, I think, has been good to them as well. They've enjoyed it as much as we have. We will certainly miss it, and it'll no longer be called the Embassy World Championship. But I think everybody will always remember and the good times here and the good years that they've had, and you know, they'll always go down in history. And I was just lucky to be a part of it, you know.
One more for the Embassy Showgirls.
I just cannot believe how this final has turned out to be almost, if not one of the great classics. It's just come together so good, and to take it almost to the last frame is beyond our wildest dreams. And we're going to miss not being here, and we hope that whoever follows us in the sponsorship stakes will be as lucky as we've been over 30 years.
I think it's been symbiotic, if that's not too silly a word. It's been integral, absolutely integral to both the sport and the brand, I think. They have become synonymous. And as you know, when you hear the players talking, they talk about winning the Embassy. What more can I say?
I'm going to miss it. Obviously, with Embassy not being involved, it's not going to be the same. Whoever comes in has got an extremely hard act to follow.
I've taken a few quid off them over the years, but I've obviously had to earn it. But they've been fantastic for the sport, not just the World Championship. They've put on tournaments in Scotland, Wales, Ireland. So you know they're going to be sadly missed in our game.
Go on, that's the important one. Hold that one up high. That's it.
It has been 30 years which I've had the dramas, the pleasures, the excitement of the Embassy World Snooker over those years. A fabulous time, and great credit and my congratulations to Embassy for all they have done for the world of snooker.